Hello, hello. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about some tea. And I don't know how interested everyone's going to be because it is Michigan tea, but I don't know if it's peeking into the national sphere because I see it trending a lot on Twitter, but I'm from Michigan, so that perhaps is why it's trending. But one of our justices has beef with another justice, and they're both Democrats over this new justice who hired an ex-convict who once robbed um, did a robbery and shot at some cops, and he went to prison for 14 years. I guess got his life together, became a lawyer, and she hired him as a clerk. And Justice Bernstein was not cool with that and had some harsh words, and he ended up resigning. And people are ticked off at Bernstein's comments, and I find it hilarious, and I will tell you why. And if anyone remembers what I did like more than a year ago, it wasn't last year, but it was the year before in the summer, and I went to a Michigan Democrat Party picnic, and Bernstein was there, and he made some comments. And so his comments that I will show you because I did record it are very interesting when you look at how he's treating this man. So I find it rather delicious. So people are laughing at Republicans for not having their act together and having to go through these repeated votes. So let's enjoy a little Shatafornia today, looking at them. Also, we will be discussing Jordan Peterson. I only got to go into that a little bit, and I got to look at more of what they're trying to make him do, which is he's been reported in multiple times, and there's been multiple complaints about his conduct online, and so he has to take either this like re-education camp sort of stuff and have a coach walk him through relearning stuff, or and if he doesn't comply, then he's gonna have to lose his license. But they also want him to pay for the coach. Like the school will bill the coach, will pay for it, and then they'll bill Peterson. So he still has to like pay for it himself at a $225 an hour rate with the coach. And I'm not sure how long the coaching would last, but he's not going to do it. So he's going to fight it, and not sure how that will go end up. He's willing to risk it all with his license, but he said he's going to make as much stuff public as he battles with them. So it'll be an interesting battle to watch. And of course, McCarthy's last I saw, he's still not the speaker, but he did get some people to flip their votes, so he's a little bit closer. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Chip Roy and some others decided to switch sides. So a lot of stuff going on today on this Friday. And we're very close to our weekend. So before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles that I've written, different videos that I have. So go ahead and check that stuff out. Also, please check out different merch that we have in the store. We have different we have different shirts like the Pro-Choice Men Are Sus, which stands for suspect. We got the Rogue KC boarded stuff. We got this hoodie, though people are very mad at Trump these days. The goat hoodie, which some people don't know what goat means. Greatest of all time. So we do have that in different colors. If people are like, I will ruin that, it's too white. I do have it in black and navy, and I think also red. So in pink, and so I got in different colors. If you're interested in that, you go to the website and get that. Also, the Denounce White Supremacy, Defeat Joe Biden shirt with a list of his racism on the back. So we have that as well. So you guys can check that out on the website. I think it was yesterday I mentioned Joe Biden, how he bragged about being from a slave state. He was asked by Chris Wallace some years ago how he was going to compete in a Democrat primary to get votes in the South. He's like, you're a liberal from Delaware, so how are you going to get like these votes from other when there's other candidates who are in the South, and he said, "You don't know my state. My state was a slave state." And I'm like, what a heck of a thing to brag about. So it's on the shirt, so you guys can get that. And I do also have it in long sleeve, and I do literally have that shirt in long sleeve. It's very comfortable. So just check out different stuff on the website. Also, I do have books myself. So if you go to blacktnews.com, hit the merchandise page, there's a banner that'll take you to my book website. Otherwise, let me just pop it up. Where is it? There you go. ninjadispublishing.com is where you can find out more information about my books. Here's a picture with all of them. All 15 that I have published right now, but I do have other books that are completed, so going through like editing and stuff. So I'll have quite a few stuff out this year. I'm always writing. It was actually my goal to complete 30 books by my 30th birthday. So I was able to do that. And if you're like, Christina, I didn't know you were 30. I am 33 years old. Some people think I'm younger. If you don't think I look younger than 33, that's okay. Most people tend to think I'm younger than 33. And because it's funny because people are like, you give me such hope for this young generation. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not as young as you think. I'm sorry to burst your bubble and to kill your hope and your joy. But there are actually quite a bit of conservative minded people in this generation. So perhaps there is hope yet. We just have to believe and keep reaching out. That's just what we have to do if we want to survive. So anyway, let's lastly, I'll say, if you guys like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com. It costs a stream, costs to run my website. So if you'd like to help with some of that overhead, I very much appreciate it. So go to the website and leave a donation if you can. Otherwise, thank you for watching, for tagging other people, telling them to look at Black Teen News, read articles. I very much appreciate it. That does all really help the site and the pages on social media. And the more, if you like watching on Facebook, if you still have a YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube and watch some things on YouTube from time to time. I'm getting a lot of views on stuff, but they do count like the short videos different than the long form videos. And I'm trying to get some more watch hours up, just to be like frank. So go ahead and find a longer video and watch on YouTube sometime. So it'll help me out. Okay, so I do have a meme for you guys today. I did already share this on Facebook. So this had to do with what we talked about yesterday with Joe Biden. Secure the border, the southern border, like nah, and then create an app for migrants to schedule an appointment to illegally enter the U.S. So we talked yesterday about how one of their brilliant plans was to create an app for people to be able to enter in their information, which you have to enter like personal stuff to DHS. So I don't have high hopes for that app working out. And then also, I'm not saying the app isn't going to work, but do you guys remember the Obamacare website and how they spent like an ungodly amount of money on the website, and it didn't work very well. Like I remember people complaining about it. That was like a huge thing on Rush Limbaugh. He talked about it all the time, how they just blew how much money they spent in it. And they're just like, you could have went to the private sector and they could have made you something that will last, that would be very good. But anytime government gets involved, things are garbage for some reason. They don't believe in quality. But maybe it's because if things work, then a lot of people can't have jobs. Because same with a lot of like activist stuff in general. Like if there are no problems to fix, then people find out very quickly how irrelevant they are. In government, in the private sector, if you can solve a problem, then you're quite successful, and you just find new problems to solve rather than not solve problems. It's just a different animal, But yeah, I don't have a lot of faith that the man in charge is going to be able to or wants to really fix the border. But he's got to look like he's doing something at this point, because it is extraordinarily bad, getting worse, not improving. And he wants to win re-election, which apparently he's going for it. He's going for it. So and you know what? He's still probably their best candidate because they don't have a good bench. Kamala Harris is terrible, and people were like, Pete Buttigieg obviously has higher aspirations for politics, but apparently it's not vice president. I mean, vice president or president going forward, at least not anytime soon. He's moved to Michigan. So apparently he could be running for Sabinal Senate seat for all we know. Um, and that'd be awful. If he won, particularly, gosh, I don't like Pete at all. Because he was one of my least favorite on the Democrat side when they were running. Because he tried to make it seem like he was so virtuous and a moderate, but he had such radical positions. And I'm just like, I don't know. He seems a little slimy. I still don't like his policies and all that stuff, same as most others, but he seemed to just have some kind of thought he was playing the game better than he was. But a lot of people aren't liking the job he's doing as transportation secretary, but people like to fail upwards. So I in the long run, I'm not sure that's people will talk about it in the primary for sure if he runs, because there's going to be a lot of people interested in that primary on the Democrat and Republican side. Because Debbie Stabenow has been there for a long time, and it's going to be an open seat. But it'll get brutal and crazy in the primary. It'll be very, very expensive. But if he makes it through the primary, they're going to act like it's not a big deal. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with all that. So let's move on. So I want to talk about Peterson first because no, let me talk about Bernstein first. Bernstein is a Michigan Supreme Court justice. He just won re-election, like hands down, he won it, re-election. And there were two incumbents on the ballot. There was him and there was our Republican incumbent, which it was close between him and the other Democrat who was new coming in, Justice Kyra Harris Bolden. So you might be saying, why is she a justice if she lost? Because Whitmer decided to appoint her after another justice decided to retire or step down. So she ended up getting seated on the bench anyway. Now, she's not a judge. She hasn't been a judge, so she doesn't have that experience, which I saw a conversation two people were having about this. And so someone mentioned that she didn't have any experience. And they're like, well, what about Amy Barrett? I'm like, Amy Barrett has tons of experience. She has experience as a judge, and she has experience as a doing other like teaching and all other credentials. Like she's not even that prominent of a lawyer. So and then the Democrat replied and said, well, she has something that you can't put on a resume. She has lived experiences. And so I don't always want to argue in people's threads or anything. And I don't know if he's replied yet, but I'm just like, everyone has lived experiences. What does that mean? What does that mean? Like, oh, they have lived experiences, so we have to consider them for this position. Like, everyone has lived experiences. And just because lived experiences as what? Just a human being, as a lawyer? Certainly not as a judge. She doesn't have that lived experience. Lived experience is what? Just as a Black woman? That doesn't make you qualified to sit on the Supreme Court. So was alleged in the legislature, but she's not a judge. She's, I would say, not technically she has the requirements to obviously sit on the Supreme Court. Whitmer could have picked anyone. She's about my age, but that's who they went with, and that's during the election cycle. And maybe they picked her because she's a young Black woman, and they are like, she's very young, so if she fails, that's fine. And if she succeeds, that's great. And maybe her being on the totem pole of groups we like to uplift will get her through, but it didn't. But then Whitmer had the opportunity to appoint anybody, including judges that she's already appointed in other positions. She could have just like upgraded them, but she picked Kyra. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and read this article out of Crane's Detroit Business. Ex-convict quits Michigan Supreme Court law clerk job after criticism by justice. So Lansing, an ex-convict who was hired by a new justice at the Michigan Supreme Court, resigned Thursday after harsh criticism from another member of the court. I've accepted Pete Martell's resignation, said Justice Kyra Harris Bolden, who took office Sunday after being appointed by Governor Gretchen Whitmer. He did not want to be a distraction or in any way divert the court from its important work. I respect his decision and do not intend to comment further. Bolden had hired Martell to serve as a law clerk, a job that includes researching cases and providing input on opinions. Martell served 14 years in prison after robbing a Flint area store and shooting at police officers, the Detroit News reported. He was released in 2008, changed his life, and obtained a degree from the Wayne State University Law School. Justin Richard Bernstein praised Martell's turnaround and said the Supreme Court shouldn't be his next stop. Which, by the way, if you don't know Bernstein, there's a family of lawyers, it's a Michigan legal like royalty family. They have all these commercials and billboards and stuff. He's one of those guys. So I'm all about second chances, Bernstein told the News. But there are certain jobs you should never be allowed to have after you shoot at a police officer, and one of them is clerking for the highest court in the state. He added, I'm completely disgusted by this. There was no comment from Martell. Court spokesman John Nevin said the court doesn't comment on personnel matters. Former Chief Justice Bridget McCormick, who left the court this week, said Martell was one of the best students when she taught at the University of Michigan. He's been open about his past and his regrets about it, and how he's eager to be an example for others to show them that you don't have to be defined by your past, she said. Bolden finished third in an election for 2 seats on the court, but was subsequently selected by the governor to fill the vacancy caused by McCormick's departure. She's Michigan's first Black female justice. Bolden and Bernstein were nominees of the Democratic Party and appeared in the campaign ads together in the fall. Bernstein easily won re-election to the court. And he said, I'm no longer talking to her. We don't share the same values. I'm like, that's intense, bro. You're not going to talk to your colleague. I wonder what other things that they maybe said, because that's pretty intense to say that. So Democrats are, at least on Twitter, are very upset. This has been trending for a while, at least locally in Michigan, from what I'm seeing in my feed, because they're saying that this, especially people who know him, and said that he worked very hard. He's a kind person, and etc. I don't know much about him other than this story, but they're saying he's served his time, and he deserves a second chance, and he's worked very hard. Now, I don't know what all his background is, and if it's his, I'm assuming it's probably not his first resume stop, and if it is, I agree that he shouldn't be on the Supreme Court. But Bernstein said people like him should never be on the Supreme Court. So I find this fascinating because not last year, but the summer before that, I went to, and it was a Democrat Party picnic. And I did not announce that I was a Republican at all. I just went in there. And I had nice conversations with people. But the thing that floored me the most about the experience was just how everyone was just convinced that Republicans literally have no empathy for people and don't care about anyone. And which I'm like, yeah, I don't think we care about our families. Husbands don't care about wives don't care about their husbands and their children, and that just kind of threw me for a loop. But it was a repeated thing that people were saying again and again and again, including Bernstein. By the way, Bernstein got up and was like, I love being a Democrat because we actually care about people. And he also talked about the credentials of being a justice and what's most important to him. And so I'll go ahead and play these two clips that I have of him. and by the way, I've been to a lot of events, public events with different people on the court, people who run for high positions in court, people who served as judges, and also I've been to quite a few events with the actual justices who are the conservative justices on the court, and I've never heard anyone say something this blatantly nakedly partisan before. And out of everything that happened that day, the critical race theory conversation I had with the chair was a big thing that happened, but this was probably like the most jarring to me, this perspective from that Bernstein had. So I'm going to play these two clips.
When people ask, what are the qualities that make a good judge? I've come to learn in the 8 years that I've been serving that it really comes down to one thing. It's not about academics. It's not about intellectualism. It's not about your ability to research and to write and to publish. It's not about any of those things. The thing that makes a good public servant is life experience. And through life experience and through the greater hardship that you possess, the more you're able to empathize, understand, and connect with those that you serve.
So, in case that was too loud or had too much background noise, he said the most important thing being a justice or being a good judge is your lived experiences and stuff. And so it's not how well read you are or whatever. Like it was all feelings with these people, all feelings. So this is when he actually like introduced himself, and he said the stuff about, I love being a Democrat.
I just want to tell you, I just love being a Democrat. Yeah. I love all of you. Because you know what makes this great? Is that when you have the opportunity to spend time with like-minded people that actually want to make the world better, when you spend time with people that care, when you spend time with folks that walk the streets and knock on doors because you care about making things better for your friends and for your neighbors and for your families, the thing that I love so much about you, about this organization, about this event, about our chair, about being a Democrat, is it really comes down to one simple thing, that Democrats care about other people. That's right. Democrats care about more than
So in case that there was too much background noise, he said that he loves being a Democrat because they actually care about people. And it comes down to one thing: Democrats care, and Democrats care about more than themselves. So I'm sitting there among this crowd of people, and I've had, quite a few conversations with people since then. And they have this glaring issue with their head and their perceptions, but most of them were very nice, even though if I got into political conversation with them and like let it all out, my opinions on different stuff, it could go south, but at the very least, we would have respectful disagreement. But we disagree, but they're still very nice. At least they treated me very nice with the small talk and stuff. But and then they're all like, "Yep, they don't care about anyone, no one, just themselves." And there's this. You can hear a woman in the background like, "Yep, that's right." Like agreeing, like, I don't know, like a congregation at church or something, like, preach. And I'm just sitting there, the Republican who knows I love my family, knows I love my friends, knows that I do missions and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, and who's gotten along with all these people, and they don't think I'm a monster. but they're saying that Republicans are they don't care about people. They don't have empathy. And you have someone who's serving on the Supreme Court, just won re-election, who said that stuff. So that was like I said, very jarring when I heard that. So anyway, I find this so fascinating with the Bernstein situation and saying that the clerk should never serve on this to be a clerk, to work, there. And so he's one of the reasons why he said that someone like that should never work, as a clerk in the Supreme Court is, oh, hold on. got an ad playing. Is because they would hear court cases that would involve cops being shot, or not cops being shot, but just involve cops. So he's assuming because of this man's life experiences, I guess, that he would be biased. That's the implication there, that he couldn't just have a non-biased opinion and stick to the law. Which, by the way, I guess, to be fair, if they're going off of lived experiences and that's something that's so important, and how they connect with people and how they empathize with people, not the law. And you already heard what his opinion on being a good justice is. It's not how well studied. It's all about emotion. So if that's his perception, and he's like, well, this person must hate cops or something, or must have some kind of bias against cops because he shot at them when he robbed a place back in the day. And by the way, this is 1994. He got out in 2008, so it was a long time ago. He served for 14 years, and but if his perception is all that matters is emotion, and his lived experience is that he's a criminal and he shot at cops, and we have to have a case that involves cops, I can't trust this person to write a good legal opinion because we're Democrats, we feel things. So if these were people who believed in that the law is the law and you go by the law, and your feelings and your emotions don't matter, you have to read the text and apply the text and not read your feelings into the text, then it really wouldn't matter so much. It really wouldn't matter so much. So people are pointing out, like, okay, if you believe that bias is there, are you going to recuse yourself since you're so pro cop that every time there's some kind of case that comes up involving cops? And I don't know, it kind of sounds like a fair question. And by the way, with how his attitudes are regarding Republicans, like, should he have to recuse himself from any case involving like Republicans and any sort of like election or party situation? Perhaps. I wish he didn't win re-election, but he did. And if you're like, Christina, those are really good clips, why wasn't it used? I did send them to people. People knew that I had them. People knew that I had this. We could have got to the right people to use it if it would have helped at all, but I can only do what I can do. I can only do what I can do. And I've been talking about this for more than a year. So people definitely knew I had those clips and what he said. I definitely let people know who could do something about it and get the word out. So this man decided to resign because he didn't want to cause all this drama. And so Bernstein was like, well, hopefully it's him and Justice, Kyra Bolden can get to bridge the gap, I guess, now that this is over. But I don't know how you can go from I don't want to talk to her, she don't share my values, to well, it's over now, he's gone, we can try to put this behind us, which they should try to put it behind them. But what a heck of a thing to say and to go through. Now you might be wondering my opinion on it, and I very much I don't know this man. I don't know this man. I don't know his background. I see people passionately coming to his defense, saying that he's turned his life around. I do believe in redemption. I do believe that people can change. But I do, and he did serve his time. So I think you'd really have to know more about him. I think it's a weird first hire. Well, I don't know if it's a first hire, but I don't think how he came for him was appropriate. And the veracity, especially given the comments that he's made in the past. So yeah, they are having a eat each other kind of moment. I don't even know if he's the only kind of commentary regarding this that I'm seeing. I mean, the news and stuff did report that she hired an ex-convict, and I have seen some like Republican commentary, not from anyone who was like a prominent. From just what I've looked at, I'm not saying there isn't any kind of prominent criticism about it. but Bernstein going so hard is again, he said someone like this should never serve. Let me see if I can find um the justice who resigned said he's been open about his past and his regrets about it and how he's eager to be an example to others to show them that you don't have to be defined by your past. I honestly can't think of anything in the justice system that we value more. We should support people who succeed at redemption. And I don't disagree with that. Um, but but Bernstein said, now that this matter is behind us, I look forward to rebuilding my relationship with our new justice. And it's funny because they did have to campaign together. They went, different places together. They were on the he was running for re-election, she was running for election. So he must know. I'm like, you if she's so radical and you didn't want to, and now you're saying we don't share the same values, whatever values those are, that's been evident by the situation. Are you telling me you weren't aware of those values before you campaigned with her, before they selected her? So I would assume there's probably more things that he might not jive with her about this, or just jive with this in general. He seems pretty I don't know how radical exactly he is. I mean, the videos, what he said was very radical to me. But there's people who are radical and there's people who are like nutso. And so I don't know how much he knows about her. That I'm sure he probably knows a lot about her. I don't know what other things have got him to this conclusion, to the point where he'd want to say, I can't talk to her. Maybe it's just this particular issue though. But we'll see. But I just thought that drama was very, very interesting. Um Very, very interesting. Anyway, let's move on to Dr. Jordan Peterson. So I wanted to put more details about this in my headline, but man, I don't know. Canada is so restrictive about stuff. One time when I got a copyright strike, not a copyright strike, it was a just a strike on my channel. I was reporting about a hospital that didn't want to have if you weren't vaccinated, they wanted to move kids. It was like a Ronald McDonald House in Canada. And so nothing I said was false. Some people were reporting it in an exaggerated kind of way. I wasn't doing that, but I got flagged. and I got a strike. I'm like, why? And they said COVID or whatever. And I'm like, I didn't say anything about COVID like being fake or something. So they just flagged it and I was on a strike. So I decided to be careful. But anyway, Professor Jordan Peterson has been instructed that he has to undergo some kind of training if he wants to be able to keep his license. So some of the social media posts that he got flagged for, he said one of the complaints was the entire 3-hour transcript of him being on Joe Rogan. I think the last time he was on, he criticized Justin Trudeau for over free speech with the trucker situation. One time he called him a puppet. They flagged him for that. He talked about ending COVID. He said, enough already, time to stop the mask, stop the lockdown, stop the petty power, mad hysteria, leave people alone, let them get on with their lives. That stuff was flagged. Enough COVID mandates, drop the mask, the idiot rules, get on with life. People were TO'd about that. So he's been, this isn't a problem that he had as far as facing constant complaints until he became like a public figure, which we mentioned that yesterday. But the Ontario College of Psychologists, um, they want to re-educate him. So one of the things that he shared a letter of all the stuff that they sent him, and so he has to, within 6 months, I think, of being notified, he has to go through some kind of training with a coach, and so the college will will bill will pay for it, the coach, but then they're going to bill him for the coach, and and he has money, he could do it, but it's a principal thing. So but the coach gets billed. They're charging $225 an hour. And I don't know how long the training has to be, for how long it has to go for. But Jordan Peterson isn't going to do it. He's going to stand on principle because he doesn't believe he did anything wrong, and he wants them to issue an apology to him. So he's going to fight it legally. He doesn't seem very optimistic, just in general, just kind of how Canada is going, that he will be able to defeat this. But I think it's well worth him, fighting against it. Because it's just crazy. There's so many things that you can't say, that you're not allowed to say in this field, particularly in Canada, to the point where especially with like gender transition stuff, and they have a law that you can't put anyone through conversion therapy, and that's not like electroshock or something like that. That's if you, let's say they have a client and they have gender dysphoria and they want like help with that, you're supposed to affirm. But if it's the other way around, though, like if you, I don't know, try to convince someone to be gay or someone to be trans or something like that, that's not illegal, but you can't like reverse it. So it seems pretty telling what the agenda is. But just to come in and affirm someone when they go to some kind of therapist for some kind of help, and you're supposed to help them work out their problems, not just come in and affirm their feelings, because they obviously need help because they don't know what's going on. So he's complained many a times about the state of psychology in general, the free speech in Canada. So he's going to go ahead and fight it. I wish him the best. I don't know. You guys know sometimes I can be kind of a pessimist, so I don't know how it's going to go for him. I do think it is worth him fighting the good fight in regard to this. But you know what? I don't think that re-education stuff nowadays is that even to really do anything other than like a humiliation ritual to see, not even because they probably think that this will shape and change people, but because they feel like they have a penance to pay. Will people truly even be forgiven if they go through some kind of training? Because Chris Harrison, the Bachelor host who lost his job, who's been with them for the longest time, he upset Rachel Lindsay. He was doing an interview with her, and he talked about the woke police and all the other kind of stuff. And if you watch interviews with Rachel Lindsay, people were mad at him because he said there was the first Black Bachelor, and he was dating this girl, and which people didn't like him. Some people didn't like the Black Bachelor anyway, because you found he was a Republican or something. And so, but the girl, some people looked into her history and found out that she was doing some kind of Southern Belle party ball thing, and I think it was at a plantation. And so people are like, oh, they having plantation parties, etc., blah blah blah. And so Chris Harrison was like, give her some grace, give her some time, I don't know, to explain herself, to get her emotions out, just give her some grace. That's what he said. And people blew a gasket and came for him and were mad about that. And then he had an interview with Rachel Lindsay, who was a Black Bachelorette. And so if you watch other interviews with Rachel Lindsay, and I've done a video about this before, so you can go back and watch that. Um, she was like ready to come for him, and she kind of set him up in her mind, like she was leading him with different questions, knowing, trying to prompt different responses that she knew that she could get him in trouble for. Not that he said anything really terrible, but just stuff that she knew that people wouldn't respond well to. And so he was like sat down and he took some time. But I brought the story because he said on, I think it was Good Morning America, he mentioned that he was going through uh he didn't call it a struggle session, but he was going through some kind of, we'll say it's a re-education with Michael Eric Dyson. And who is a not a good person. He said some terrible things about people on MSNBC. He called Jordan Peterson a mean, mad white man, and just unmerited. I mean, he's someone who's a has a encyclopedia. But he's not a good dude. But I'm like, he is training Jordan. He's training Harrison. Is it Harris or Harrison? But he's training him, trying to, like, I don't know, get him to some kind of state of forgiveness for with these people. And I don't know if NBC, I can't remember, ABC brought it up or made him go through that, or that's something that he reached out and did to pay penance himself. But guess what? It didn't work. It didn't work, and he's still not doing The Bachelor anymore. So, which a lot of people were upset because people felt like he was so closely associated with The Bachelor that, you know, it is his thing. And he still got paid out a lot of money because of the contracts, whatever, but they let him go. So, some of these people do not want any sort of forgiveness, and I do feel like, and they don't want you to be reformed. They want you to be humiliated. They really want you to be humiliated. Now they want you to be humiliated, just not just because they resent you and they want you to look like a clown. They want to parade you around. You know, there's that famous like scene in Game of Thrones when Cersei is naked walking through the streets. Which that's actually, like, I heard this like a body double because she wouldn't do that herself, but she's walking through the streets and they're ringing the bell saying shame, shame, and she's just like totally humiliated, or the purpose was to totally humiliate her and to parade around her in that shame and humiliation, to make a big public spectacle of it. So I think the main purpose isn't because they think that this stuff will work on Jordan, that he can truly reform, and they want to make him pay, like literally pay money. They want to put him through a public humiliation ritual. And if he doesn't comply, maybe perhaps they know he won't comply, to pull his license, to delegitimize him, to hurt him, and to send a message to other people who dare to speak out against them. So it's and Daria, there used to be a TV show, they like Six Sad World. It really is today. It really is today. People don't value free speech. Him questioning or calling out Justin Trudeau or other folks doesn't somehow demean his skills as a therapist, someone who has helped countless young men, not just at his practice or couples or whoever in his practice, but on such a large scale. And he can still do that on a large scale. But this is the way that they want to delegitimize him. And then going forward, when they have articles about Jordan Peterson, to say that he lost his license, you know. So it is a tactic. And I do wish him the best to be able to push back against them and fight against this. And hopefully, you know, justice isn't dead in Canada. But justice and you know, Trudeau just don't go together. He's a bit like his dad. You catch my drift. I'm just joking. Kind of. He does look like Castro, but he does, I guess, look like his dad. If you haven't seen like side by side pics of Castro and Trudeau, I don't know how you've lived life. Um, but you know, all the best to Peterson. Also, in the House, there's been some headway for McCarthy. I don't think any else has changed. Like he's been nominated, but they have um, plucked away some folks who are resistant. Um, 12th round, McCarthy got 214. Jeffries got oh, that's it, right? Um 213. Hearn got 4, Jordan got 4, Jeffries got 211. So they did get some flips on some votes. And he's making a lot of concessions to people. Um so we'll see what happens if they can, because they have such a slim majority. But Matt Gaetz and Bobart, they don't want to vote for him at all. Um, but if they have another person in mind, which I don't know, it doesn't look like they do because there's so many people who still want to vote for McCarthy, and they keep Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan doesn't want to do it. They picked Byron Donalds. Byron Donalds voted for himself, but because he said it was cool, but he doesn't want to do it, and he's a very fresh um, congressman, and you do have to have some pull to be able to do the job. And I'm saying he doesn't have pull, but it's not something that you would normally give to someone who hasn't been in there for very long. But they still don't have the majority. It's not the majority, but he is getting closer. He is ticking toward it. Bishop, Beechin, Cloud, Clyde, Donalds, Gosser, Luna, Miller, Norman, Ogles, Perry, Roy, as in Chip Roy, Self, and Sparts changed their votes to Kevin McCarthy. So he gained quite a bit. I guess he had 213, not 214. He's still. I don't know what he's gonna have to do to break the other ones. Break it maybe isn't a good term, but I don't want him to break someone or get tough for like mafia kind of. But someone made a point that it's probably not good for them that there's some people holding out. Probably think it would be better if they weren't doing anything for the next year or so. And I'm like, I mean, part of me thinks that that's kind of awesome too, but at the same time, I know they have to pass budgets and other stuff like that, and you never know when there's going to be some kind of emergency and you have to get funds and other stuff appropriated, and you don't. They do have to eventually have people sworn in, and they can't do any investigations and other stuff that they want to do if they don't actually get the work done. But to the Democrats out there who are complaining in the House about the sideshow, some of them could easily just not vote for Jeffries and they could put McCarthy over and then they'd be done. Which, by the way, I went to an event yesterday, and it was supposed to Lisa McClain was supposed to be there at the event, and she wasn't because she was still in DC dealing with the House situation. So they did send someone from her office, so that was good. Lisa McClain is very active, and she shows up at a lot of things. She's been very accessible, probably the most accessible congressperson I've seen in Michigan, and she's not even my congressperson. But I went to the event because a friend invited me. So interesting things happen, though. I'll have to share that at a different time. It's very, very local politics. But I will say this. There's so many people complaining about the losses, particularly in my state, Michigan, but all over the place. And so many people are desperate to fix things, but it doesn't seem like they even know the truth of how things operate and what actually went wrong. It doesn't seem like people actually know that. Like uh, someone running um, for a chair had like a packet, like in my GOP chair had like a plan or whatever. So I was like reading through the plan, and they're saying all this stuff that isn't happening or complaining about stuff, and I'm like one thing they mentioned was communication. And I used to work at the Michigan Republican Party. And granted, I didn't work at their this cycle, and they're like, "There's no communication." I'm like, really? Is there no communication? Because I do know, and granted, I wasn't there this cycle. I did work under the current chair the last time he was chair, though. Though the communications person who I worked under isn't there. So, but I can say that normally there'd be different when something would happen and there'd be like an issue in the news, they'd send out like talking points to different activists or party people, like party chairs, district chairs, or whatever, and they could spread out different talking points to other people. So I'm like, there is a network of information. They actively send out press releases and all kinds of different stuff. And when I worked there every 2 weeks we'd have this big newsletter that we would send out to a lot of people, like everybody who was on a list. We had a huge list, and it would be, it would go out. It would be have information on the House and the Senate, talking about our local legislature. It would stuff on the federal level. I think something from the RNC, stuff from the different departments, the comms team, the finance team, all that stuff, local news and announcements for events. I mean, that was a big thing that we worked in, and I even made headers for like each different section. So we spent a lot of time communicating to people. So and I'm like, were you plugged in? Is the question. Were you plugged in to the communication? Were you trying to get those communications? Because there's definitely communication. So there's a lot of people who have complaints and they want change, but I'm like, you have to assess, you have to know what people actually did to know where they failed. So there's a lot of emotions, and we try to say facts don't care about feelings. I mean, that's Ben Shapiro's thing that he coined, but there's a lot of people who are so in such a heightened state of emotion because of like our losses that they're not looking at things in a very analytical view. So I just hope we can get it together. There's a lot of opportunities on the board going forward in 2024, though we do have a lot of election laws and things that have changed that'll make it very difficult. But if we have some good candidates and we have a good infrastructure moving forward, it is possible to win some seats. It's possible to win the presidency again, yes, through Michigan. It's possible to win the Senate seat. It's very wide open. It's going to be a crazy race with Debbie Stabenow tapping out, which, by the way, there's going to be races all over the place. Democrats have to defend up more than 20 seats, I think. So it's going to be hard for them to keep their majority. So there's lots of opportunities. Republicans have, been down because of the red wave didn't come, wasn't even much of a trickle. It was a tsunami in like Florida and other places, but we got our butts kicked here in Michigan and some other places. And so we have to refocus, and we have to be honest. And we have to really look from the bottom to the top to the bottom of what went wrong, and ask ourselves, did we do everything that we could do as individuals to get the win? Because it's very easy to point to people above us and be like, well, the Mitch McConnell and these people didn't spend enough money in these races back home where we are. It's like, well, how much did you help those candidates yourself? Did you knock doors for them? Did you pass out lit? Did you make phone calls? Did you give anything yourself? So those are questions that every person can ask themselves and say, there was more I could have done, to win. So Um, it is very much a bottom on up thing. The people who work at the bottom help everyone up, going up to the top of the ticket. And if you're good candidates for the top of the ticket, working hard, it's going to also pay off, for everyone who's working from the bottom up. So it politics is a team sport. It's a team sport. It's not like, American Idol and you go in and one person's doing their thing. It takes so much to get to the victory, and everyone has to participate. So I just ask that everyone truly, truly analyze these elections and not just say, the Democrats stole it. Like, really, really look at the races, what people have done, and ask yourself, did you do what you could have done? What can you do more? What can we do wiser next time? One thing I will say, as we're going into a new election cycle, is that it is very important to pick good candidates and not just people who look good on paper. It's very important because you can pick someone who looks good on paper. But I think one of the worst things after an election is knowing that the volunteers worked more than the candidate. And there's some people who have run for stuff that I'm like, they didn't give their all. And sometimes people will be so passionate for those people with the amount of hours they put in, miles on their car, running, wearing out their shoes, emptying out their bank accounts for different people. And some folks don't even want to go to places on the weekend. So make sure when you're looking at people in primaries that they are people who are going to work hard themselves, that are really hungry for the win. I think one of the reasons why I decided to caucus for Trump back in 2016 is because I'm just like, he wants to win and he's going to fight. He really wants to win. And because I did like Ted Cruz, just to be frank. And Ted, really wanted it too, but there was just a different sort of grit. And then there was the fact that it didn't seem like anything was really sticking to Trump either. I'm like, I think he'll continue fighting through the mud. And I thought that Trump could survive stuff more than I thought if Cruz could survive stuff of how they came after him. So I'm like, he's really gonna fight to the end. And he did, and he won, obviously. People are questioning, does he still have that mojo? And that's an entirely long topic that I don't want to discuss anymore. At least not today. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the show today. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos that I have, different merch that we have at the store. I like My Money, My Business t-shirt. We got the black tea mug. I do also have my book, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, which, by the way, my sister made that image there with the baby hand and God. So she did a fantastic job creating that. But I'll let you know when that is available for pre-order. But I wrote that because I was very annoyed with people who continuously kept, I would make secular arguments for, life. And then there are people be like, you're just religious. I'm like, I didn't say anything about religion, which, I'm religious, but, and then they say, well, the Bible tells you have an abortion in Numbers 5:11. I'm like, what are you talking about? So I've talked about that scripture and read it more than last year than probably any other scripture, sadly. But I started writing articles to just debunk a lot of stuff that people were saying. But then I continued, it just kept growing. And so it's not just a theological book, but it also deals with philosophy and biology. And I think a really important section in the chapter in the book is why we need moral absolutes. Dennis Prager, he says that he doesn't even bother trying to convince people that God is real. He convinced people of the moral need of God. So even if you don't believe in God, like there are particular moral absolutes that we need to, I mean, I guess not, you don't have to act like you have the belief of him, but act as if those rules still apply in a way, because if we don't have some kind of moral absolutes and act as though life is intrinsically, not just that humans are intrinsically valuable, but life itself is intrinsically valuable, that's how you get monstrous atrocity like slavery and the Holocaust and etc. So it's got a lot of good stuff in it, and my purpose of the book is not to um th- thrash and trash women who've had abortions. um I believe that God can redeem anyone, and and I know a lot of people have been manipulated, have, have been lied to. Some of the fiercest, greatest pro-life advocates I know are women who regret their abortions and were lied to by the industry. But God used Apostle Paul, who did terrible things for his glory, and I believe in redemption. So it's not about condemnation. That's not my goal, though. I'm very firm in my opinions, for sure. It's never about condemnation. At least that's not the place where I'm coming from with any topic. I well, some things, yes, I do believe we should condemn something, a lot of things, but my place is, I'm always trying to come from a place of the betterment of humanity, society, etc. And we are all are made in the image of God, and um, I'm just trying to do what I feel is best and what I believe is best from a moral kind of standpoint, just in general. But I make a good case. I make a good case in the book. So I'm looking forward to when that comes out. So you can sign up for updates on blacktnews.com. Anyway, God bless you guys, and I hope you enjoy your weekend.